Hi, Al on the International Cruiser here.
And today, a story about a cruise from hell for a couple who just wanted to celebrate a 65th birthday. It happened on the MSC Sinfonia, a cruise that turned into a nightmare when everything, and I mean everything, that could go wrong for this couple actually did. So, here's how it goes. The couple booked a Mediterranean cruise with MSC on the Sinfonia in a suite with an Aurea package, which was scheduled to depart from Venice on September 10th. And this is one of those stories where one bad thing follows another. This British couple leaves home for their flight to Italy from Heathrow Airport in London, and right from the start, the problems begin. Their flight is overbooked, and it's not even a direct flight. The second flight they were scheduled for is also overbooked, and the couple discovers, in a conversation with MSC, that the cruise and flights were sold to them as a package by the company itself because they didn't manage to catch the ship in Venice. And instead, they are to fly to Dubrovnik, Croatia, to meet the ship there. But of course, the story doesn't end there. In fact, that's just the beginning of a long ordeal. They're still at the airport and discover that one of their suitcases is missing. So they spend 9 hours at the airport until they locate the suitcase. After getting their suitcase back, they're taken to a hotel where they spend the first night when they were supposed to be on the ship. In the morning, they are picked up from the hotel and taken to the airport, and they fly to Dubrovnik. If it wasn't clear, of course, the hotel and all the arrangements due to the delay are the responsibility of the cruise company that sold them everything as a package, so at least they were spared the need to deal with all the arrangements and coordination around it. Can you imagine the nightmare they could have been in if they had booked the cruise and the flight separately? And you would expect the story to end once the couple arrived in Dubrovnik, but that was not their fate. It turns out the ship does not dock in Dubrovnik, it docks in Kotor or Kotor, depending on pronunciation, which is in Montenegro. This city is about a 2 to 3 hour drive away, depending on traffic. A taxi was indeed waiting for them at the airport to take them to the ship, but they were not the only ones in the taxi that had been arranged for them, because it turns out there were other people who apparently encountered the same problem. Well, you might say it's not such a big deal. So you share a taxi with people you don't know? At least we're all on the same ship and can complain to each other. But according to what the couple describes, there wasn't enough room in the taxi for everyone. So this couple had to share a single seat for the entire ride. And to top it off, one of their bags was with them in the taxi, which it turns out also didn't have air conditioning. And finally, when they finally arrived at the port, there was another surprise waiting for them. Or rather, there wasn't, because they got to the port before the ship itself, so they had to wait outside until they could board. They handed over their suitcases at the entrance to the port, as is customary. And of course, there had to be a problem here too. And I know what you're thinking, they lost their luggage a second time. But no, the suitcases made it to the room, but it rained all day. And if you remember, they waited a long time at the port itself, so of course the suitcases were wet and the clothes inside were soaked. Yes, their suitcases were left outside all that time, no one bothered to cover them, and they got soaked in the rain. If you leave a suitcase in the rain, the water will eventually get inside. In the end, they spoke with customer service on the cruise, and they told them, no problem, we can dry your clothes. Just give us 48 hours. 48 hours, 2 days to dry clothes. Unless they plan to wait for the sun to come out and dry them naturally, I don't understand why it should take 48 hours. So they took some of the clothes and dried them themselves in the room and decided to move on from this point and enjoy their luxury cruise. And if you thought it ended there, think again. Of course not. This is the cruise from hell, right? Almost from the very beginning, the man started to feel unwell. He thought it was a mild case of food poisoning from undercooked meat, but he kept going and tried to make the most of the cruise anyway. After a few days, the cruise itself was supposed to end in Venice. Did it end in Venice, you ask? So, here's what happened. Because of strong winds, the ship couldn't dock in Venice, so they docked at a more distant port. All the passengers got off the ship onto buses that took them to the original port where they were supposed to dock. Of course, if this had only been the last part, it wouldn't have been worth mentioning, but considering everything that couple had to go through, it's another piece of information worth noting. From there, they continued to the pharmacy and flew home. No, it didn't end there. When they got home, the man still wasn't feeling well, so of course he took a COVID test, and yes, he had also contracted COVID. The cruise from hell followed him even after he got off the ship. Naturally, they are demanding a refund for the cruise. And remember, this was a luxury MSC package. They were supposed to get a luxury cruise with all the perks. And at every turn, something went completely wrong. It was indeed MSC's responsibility to take care of them. So what do you think? Should they get a refund? What about compensation? If you agree with me on this, give the video a like. Also, if you'd like to learn important tips for booking a cruise the right way, so that a similar story won't happen to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. After all, everything could have been avoided from the start if, for example, they had booked a flight a day earlier. It should be noted that MSC offered them partial compensation, but the amount was significantly less than what they paid. What would you do in such a case? I'd be happy if you leave a comment below. And why am I sharing this story with you? No, I don't think this should discourage you from taking a cruise. It's clear to all of us that a story like this is one in a million. We find stories like this interesting precisely because they're so rare. If this happened frequently, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it. I'm sharing this story with you so that the next time you encounter a small problem on your cruise, you'll remember this couple and realize that your problem is minor. As terrible as it may be, it probably doesn't compare to the hell that this couple went through and to the countless problems they experienced from start to finish. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to leave it behind and actually try to enjoy your cruise. True, it's not pleasant to stand in line at the dining room, and for some of us, it's hard to walk from the port to the check-in terminal and from the check-in terminal to the ship. But you'll agree that this doesn't compare to this whole vanishing story, and remember that things can always be much worse. Always keep in mind that even if you encounter a problem, treat the staff kindly and pleasantly, because beyond the fact that they're on the ship to provide you with excellent service, if you behave badly, you might find yourself being disembarked at one of the ports and having to pay your own way home, as happened in the following interesting story.